long were you with EDS?
15 years.
15 years.
And I was president for the last, I was executive vice president, president for the last 8 or 9 years of the 15 years. And I really enjoyed it. Public companies are fun for about 3 or 4 years. But after that, I really yearned to get back and start private companies again, because there's a lot less bureaucratic stuff that you have to go through with running a public company and everything else. And so I went back and formed the Hart Group.
Well, when you left, was that when EDS was sold to General Motors?
Shortly, about a year or so after that.
I see.
Yeah, we were still, I had sold the business and was involved in staffing the Iranian deal. And I came back into EDS at the point in time that the hostage crisis took place, our hostage crisis, not the big one.
Yeah.
To help run that operation.
And so did you kind of get the team that went over there to rescue those guys?
Well, I helped manage that team. Ross, he had, really, Ross was very inspirational in terms of what he wanted to do. And I came back in and I was talking to Bill Gaden, the guy that was the officer that I'd hired earlier, who was over there in Tehran at the time. We had the 2 guys that got thrown into jail. We also had 9 other people over there, which I didn't know. And here we had 2 guys in prison. And the problem was how the hell to get them out and what to do about it when you get them out. But it was really a mess. And so what we ended up doing was that Ross had done, before I came back into the situation, had put together a team to go over there. He hired a man by the name of Colonel Bull Fisher, who had retired Green Beret. And his idea was that he was going to take this team, and these are ex-Marines and ex-Green Berets, and they were going to overthrow the prison. Well, the colonel took one look at that and he said, well, the first thing that's happened, they kill us and then they kill all the prisoners. And he said, that's not going to work. So then we're in a situation of what do you do? And Ross asked me to come back in and work with both the political situation, because I knew Carter and had worked in helping get him elected, although I later wasn't that happy about it. But to work the political situation, you stop and think about it. They had come to EDS and said, for, what was the amount of money? $12 or $13 million, whatever the amount of money was, that, we'll be bail for them. What it really was, it would be a bribe to get them out of there. Mm-hmm. And knowing Ross like some of us do, that infuriated Ross. He says, we're not going to do that. And so Ross asked me to come back in because the parents of the 2 guys were pretty upset and were about to go public. And so I came back in and talked to both them and also talked to Ross. I said, yeah, Ross, if that's what it's going to take, we're going to do it. Yeah. And so, but you can't write a check to a foreign government. You've got to go through our State Department, their state, the equivalent of their State Department, banks on both sides, and get it done. And we were in the process of getting that done when they were through the shop, which we were afraid was what was going to happen. And I had worked with enough up there, and the guy that I'd hired as one of the lobbyists, wife happened to be Mondale's assistant. And so I went to him and I said, okay, how do we handle this thing politically? Because we knew of a general by the name of Heiser that was over there at the time as part of the embassy. And he had been friends with and had trained some of the Iranian Air Force officers. And what our hope was that if the worst happened with the Shah being overthrown, that maybe we could get these guys to go fly our guys back out of there, while all the consternation was going on. So I ended up going over, and our political guy said, Mitch, he said, I think that if you walked over to the State Department and tell them that you came from the highest authority, you could probably talk your way into the Iranian desk, which I did. And it was a very interesting situation, because I'm talking on this super secret communication system to the ambassador over there, and a guy by the name of Sullivan, and General Heiser. And I'm trying to talk to Heiser, and Sullivan said to me, he says, well, if you hadn't done something wrong, they wouldn't be in prison. And I lit into him because he is also the guy that had been the ambassador in Laos before it got overthrown. So he was working on 2 for 2. And it got so heated, they pulled the communication between us. But I'd been able to get across to Heiser what I was hoping we could do. Well, we've got all this thing working. We've got the agreement from the State Department. We're working on the agreement from Tehran about how to get it done. They overthrew. So there's nobody to talk to anymore. No bank to talk to, no anything else. Totally and apart from us, which we didn't have anything to do with. A young guy that had been an EDS trainee, an Iranian guy, was part of the mob that overtook a police station. After they overtook the police station, he stands on an apple crate, the old, literally, story, and stands up and says, let's take the prison. So they went over and overthrew the prison. And then they turned the guys loose. Well, I'm talking to Gaydon every night about 2 o'clock in the morning, and Gaydon said, Mitch, he said, somebody asked me if I'd seen Bill and Paul, and he said, I don't have a clue what they're talking about. And I said, well, what could it be? And he said, I don't know. And about that point in time, you could hear gunfire in the background because they were in the Tehran Hilton. There's a knock on the door, and Bill and Paul walk in. So then the job was to get them out, and where Ross's prior planning really came in handy because Ross had the people over there. He had $1 million in gold over there. They had hired 2 Land Rovers, to take the people out. Well, you have a problem not only of getting them out, going out through Turkey, but you've got all these other people you got to get out through the air flight, which worried me more than trying to get them out through Turkey because, the Iranians are perfectly capable of finding it there from EDS and throw some more people in. But anyway, they really did a great job. Went out through Turkey. I asked our guys when they came out, I said, well, did you have to bribe much? He says, Mitch, he said, on the one of the Turkish guards, he said, I gave him $25. Is it okay? I said, oh yeah. But that's literally all that was there. And there's been a lot of fictionalization about how that actually happened. There was never a shot fired by our people about anybody else from it. So what you saw on TV is not right.
How'd that young guy manage to take over that prison?
Well, part of a mob, frankly, which is kind of what's happening in Egypt right now.
Yeah.
There's no leadership. I think the problem we've got right now in Egypt is the fact there is no institution to fall back on.
Yeah.
We were lucky in this country because we had a bunch of very dedicated people who were trying to make it right. But you look at Tehran, Iran, what happened there? There's nobody. So the mullahs take over, and now you've got a hell of a problem on your hands. Same thing could happen here in Egypt.
Yeah. Looking back on that, what kind of mistakes did we make in Iran there that we could have done better or changed that?
I don't know because it was, we seem to have a habit if things are going well, and we like the ruler, we don't, frankly, I think, put enough pressure on them to try to. Human rights, I'm not talking about democracy. I'm not sure that you can force democracy on anybody. But I think you can do human rights in a much better way. And I think with the political pressure and the economic pressure that we have, we can do a better job. That's what should have happened, I think, in Egypt today. They have nobody to fall back on. All of a sudden, the premier or the dictator says, this is my vice president. Well, he had no standing with anybody. So what happens is you've got chaos now.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how it stops.